Recording now. Hey everybody, we're starting our live with Andrea Saliba. Just gonna get her to join and then we'll start. All right. Let's see if she'll show up now. Oh, there she is. I was like, I know it's happening.
How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Let me just adjust myself here. I've never done a split screen, so it's a little bit different for me here.
No, I know. It only gets half your body, so.
Okay, good. Can you hear and see me okay, though?
It is perfect. Can you hear me too?
I can hear you, yeah. I just wasn't sure if you can hear me. I had to come up to the quietest room in my house, but so hopefully you can see and hear me okay. How are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Did you have a good long weekend?
Yes. It was very busy. And then, yesterday was everyone into bed, clean, showers, lunches, and it was go. I'm sure it was the same for you.
It felt good to be back to the routine, 100%. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. But I want to make sure everyone knows who you are. So it's Andrea Saliba, certified holistic nutritionist. And you started your coaching group in 2020, right?
The most recent group that I have is called the 30-Day Wellness Journey. Yeah, I started that in 2020.
Yeah, that is amazing. Also, you are an author.
Yay, yeah.
There you go. If anyone hasn't recently purchased the book, this is a great one. I was going to say, if you haven't purchased it yet, anybody out there, it's a very good book. The whole family will like the recipes.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I put a lot into that. A lot of good family recipes in there for sure, but really for anybody, it's quick and easy. Anybody who wants to eat healthy but doesn't have so much time to prep, I feel like that's what I tried to put into the book at least.
Well, you definitely did. I know even my kids, when they were going through it and they saw your son's recipe and they were like, we have to make that. And I'm like, we do, because crepes are amazing. Everybody needs to have them in their life.
Yeah, I know. My son loves that recipe. He's always making it. So I'm like, I have to add this into the book because it is something that we make literally every week. So yeah.
No, it's definitely important. And so for everybody that may or may not know why we're doing the live, it's on picky eating and feeding our kids, and even not just picky eaters, just feeding children in general, and the foods that we should be giving our families to make them healthy, and where supplements would fit depending on what we're doing every day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think this is a great topic because it is something that, oh my goodness, something that everybody, including myself with 4 children, struggle with. And someone who does have 4 kids, I can actually say that, when I first had my daughter, I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure she's eating this and we're going to do this and this and this, and everything was very routine. And then I had the second child. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And they liked all the foods in the very beginning. But then by the time I started having more kids, it got so much more difficult because the older kids started getting more picky and, with activities, it just gets so hard for people. So I totally understand, especially once I have so many clients that have little children or even teenagers or whatnot. It can be very challenging to make meals that everybody in the household enjoys, not just the kids, but even your partner, like how do you feed everybody in your house and make sure that everybody likes it? So that's kind of what I wanted to bring into the topic today, because that is something that I hear all the time. I struggle with it myself. So there is some things that I do in my own household, but then there's also some things that I have to let go of. So I think that's important.
That's a big one. That's a huge one right there. No, I completely agree. We're the same in our house. Every kid likes something different. And then sometimes I make meals and my husband's like, well, what are we eating? And I'm like, just eat it. Yeah. I'm like, because the kids are happy. The kids are happy. Just eat the food in front of you. And, of course, he loves it too. But it's funny because it's, depending who you're making the meal for.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I want to, because I'm the one who makes all the meals in my house, right? So I want to satisfy my husband's needs, my kids' needs, and then of course my own. And so that can be very, very challenging. And I actually know a lot of parents who make separate meals for each of their children. And I feel like if I had to do that, I would go crazy. But I can understand why some people do that. It's because the number one thing on their mind is, how am I going to get my kid to eat as nutritious as possible? And I think a lot of people just have that big fear that their kid is not going to be getting all the vitamins and minerals that they need in that meal. And that's kind of where I like to say, you know, just do your best. Introduce it from a very young age. We'll talk about that in a minute. But then, of course, I like to say that vitamins are insurance, right? Especially like a multivitamin. You have a wonderful one that we use in our home, the KidStar multivitamin. I don't know if you want to show everybody that one.
Oh, yeah, that one's a good one. There we go,
yeah,
purple one.
This is the one.
One's awesome.
My kids love this one so much because it's really hard to find a multivitamin that kids actually like, that tastes good. And, you know, one thing is if you go on in any health food store or just even at the drugstore, for example, to buy a kid's multivitamin, we all know Flintstone vitamins, you know, not to name one, but there are other brands that I'm not a fan of that have a lot of fillers, a lot of false sugars, or just sugar in general. And, you know, that's not helping your child in any way. So, I definitely like your product for the simple reason that it's pure, real ingredients. Every single word in there you can pronounce. And I like that you use, it's xylitol in that product, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know your other one, I think it's monk fruit. Is it in the omega?
Oh, yeah. In the spray, and the omega is monk fruit.
Yeah. So those are the only, you know, sugars that I like to even bake with is monk fruit. I use stevia, or xylitol is also great as well. So, and what's great about xylitol is when they bite into it, it doesn't harm their teeth as well, which is a huge, yeah.
No, it's perfect. Yeah. They, that's the same thing in our house. You know, you fill the gaps with clean, awesome supplements. And then, you know, you don't have to feel bad when you know your child's not eating what they need to eat. Or, you know, some weeks they don't want anything at all. The next week they eat everything that you've put on the table. So it's just really hard to, you know, we don't need any guilt as parents. You bring that supplement out, it fills your gaps. It's like your little safety net, and, you know, you're good to go. So it's definitely, there is a need for supplements, and, you know, it's supplementing your diet. That's exactly what it is. So, you know, we need our great diets and our healthy foods, and then you do the addition of the supplements, which is great.
Yeah, like I always tell my kids, you know, we always have to start with food first, but it is always good to have that as a backup. And I really don't think that people, even adults, you know, I tell my clients all the time, get what you can first from a healthy diet. Ask yourself, am I incorporating vegetables at every single meal? You know, am I drinking enough water? Because that's really important as well. Am I getting enough fiber in my diet, enough protein? And, you know, for a lot of people, they just simply are not. And it's just because they're not educated enough with nutrition. But once people get the gist of it, they're like, okay, I can add this here and add this here. Mm-hmm. Then I say, take that multivitamin for insurance. And then the other thing is omega-3 as well, which I believe is a very, very important one. Yeah, for adults and children. Just because it's an essential, right? Your body can't make it, so you've got to get it through your diet. And I mean, unless you're eating fish every single day, you know, it is hard to get that omega-3 into your diet. So me personally, I give my kids the multivitamin from your line, as well as omega-3. And I'm also giving them vitamin D, because vitamin D also from, you know, even birth, like breastfed babies need vitamin D. So that one, I like that you have a spray. That one is really awesome.
It gives you a little more fun when you're doing your supplements. You know, it can get boring taking the same things over and over again. So we really tried to make it different delivery methods, different tastes, you know, getting everybody in the family to like the products it's huge. So,
well, that's the thing. You want them to like it, especially if you feel it's important for them to take. They have to actually like the taste of it, right?
So, yes, definitely.
But going back to the nutrition part of it, you know, let's talk a little bit about picky eaters, because I think that's what a lot of people want to hear from us today.
It's true.
So, I guess my biggest advice for picky eaters is, like I said, in the very beginning, when I had just my daughter and even my son, so I had 2 children, I was like so focused. I would like force them to sit down and basically force feed them and say, you know, you can't leave the table till you finish this. But, you know, as I started having more kids after that, it got a little bit more challenging to do that simply because of time. But
Mm-hmm.
also I realized that that's not really the best way, at least not in my household with my kids. I don't know if you do that with your children, but I remember being a little girl and my mom sitting me down, force feeding me to eat meat. And it
Oh, yeah.
actually caused so much trauma for me as a child. Like it scared me. I didn't want to eat meat. I think I stopped eating meat for I don't know how many years just because of that. But so, I don't think it's a good approach to force the child to finish food. That's just my opinion. So what I do is I say to the kids, this is our meal and it's always just one meal. It's not, I'm not making different meals for every child. Sometimes I incorporate them into the meal making. So I'll say, okay, guys, what do you feel like having for dinner tonight? And I've always taught my kids what protein is, what vegetables are, like the whole groups of veggies, what healthy fats are, and what carbohydrates are. And I break it down. I've always taught them from a very young age. Obviously the older ones maybe understand it a bit better. And I'll say, what kind of protein do you want to have today? And and I make them come up with a meal. And then this way they feel like they've had a part of it.
Oh,
And
that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really fun because there was a time frame where I got really stuck and I was getting really irritated because I would make all these beautiful meals and then
no one would eat them.
And no one would eat them. And I'd be like, are you serious? Do you know how many people would love to have a meal like this?
You're like, the neighbor would like this meal.
Yeah.
I'm going to go next door.
So, and it was, it definitely hurt my feelings. So I'm like putting all this love into it. I'm sure so many parents can relate to that. So I started trying to think of ideas. What can I do? So the best idea for me was creating a chart, and each day of the week, because there is 6 of us, I would ask each person in the family, okay, so Monday is Christian's day, Tuesday is Nicholas's day, Wednesday's Michaela's day, and of course Romeo's only 2, so he can't really make
He's
up
like,
his
I
mind.
know, he knows what he wants.
But yeah, so I would kind of pick something that I know he likes, and it was really fun because the kids got so involved with that they really looked forward to their day of the week, and then when their meal came, they would eat the whole thing. And it was so
that's
fun.
amazing. And and I think that's an awesome thing to do, is having the kids involved, especially because you're right. When they are part of it, they know what it is. They don't have to ask the question, well, what did you do? What did you put in there? And it's like, no, you made it. You know what's in it, and let's eat it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also let my kids be creative. Like right now, my daughter is 11 and my son is 9. So those older two, my daughter's on TikTok. So she's like, oh, Mom, look at this cool recipe and it's healthy. So they're excited to try. They make a huge mess in the kitchen, but but I say to them, well, you know what? If it's healthy, sure, give it a try. So usually they'll make smoothies or whatever it is, and I allow them to do that and have fun with it, because it also gets them to be creative, to look for recipes at that age. So anybody who has children that are maybe like 11 and older, be creative with them and just say like, hey, why don't you find a recipe? If your child is a teenager, you can say, go on Pinterest, find something that you would want to eat. Because I know I've heard from people, I come from a very big family as well, and I heard that once your kids hit the teenage years, it's very challenging, and especially because they can then go buy.
They can do what they want, and then
they can do what they want.
Yeah.
So,
and it's true. Yeah, we actually did the Pinterest thing with my second daughter, because she's the one that's normally like, no, I'm not eating this. And so I sat down with her and we picked like 5 recipes. And actually one of them ended up being her favorite recipe. And so every week she's like, well, did you make that one? And I'm like, actually, she's the only one that likes it. So it's actually funny because, she wants me to make it, but she's the only one that eats it. So, but yeah, no, she loved it. She loved going through the whole thing. And of course, Pinterest is so much fun that you might get stuck on there for a few hours.
There, yeah, you could spend hours and hours, but I think for older kids that is definitely the best. And kind of going back to the teenagers, because I do have a lot of clients with teenagers, and they say, Andrea, I love your meal plan, love everything, but sometimes certain picky eaters in the household that are teens, they might not want to eat that, or they might put their nose up at it. Actually, surprisingly, a lot of the recipes I give on my nutrition plans, a lot of clients come back to me and say that first there's judgment when the family looks at it and they're like, what is this? And then they eat it and they're pleasantly surprised. So, you know, that's also a reminder to just try.
Yes.
And especially with vegetables, you know, something like cauliflower, broccoli, zucchini. These I'd say are the top three, and mushrooms that
The mushrooms.
typically like
Yeah.
kids, teenagers and kids will put their nose up. So my suggestion for that would be try it in a variety of different ways. So for example, you know, let's take cauliflower because this is one that I struggle with in my household. So I've made cauliflower roasted and the kids typically will be like, eh. I've tried it where it's just the big head of cauliflower and put like tahini over it. It was kind of met on that, but I actually tried it a different way because I know my kids like mashed potatoes. So what I did was I mashed cauliflower so it looked like mashed potatoes, put a little bit of butter and herbs, and
That'd be yummy. Well, now you're making me hungry.
they loved it. And actually, I found a purple cauliflower, like so a different
nice
color. Yeah, and I mashed that, and they loved it. They asked for seconds, and it was amazing. So, you know, they may not like the texture of it one way, but they might like it another way. So it's just about being creative. And you could do the same with zucchini. You can make it into noodles. You can, you know, make zucchini boats. You can, what I like to do with zucchini is I like to just chop it up, freeze it. And then I know this doesn't sound pleasant, but it actually tastes amazing. We'll put it in smoothies. So I'll do like chocolate protein powder and frozen zucchini because it makes it more frothy and thick.
I'm
And
gonna
you
have
get
to try that.
and it tastes like a dessert, tastes like ice cream. So they actually don't mind it that way. And I've actually recently found my daughter putting cauliflower rice into her smoothie like I do. She saw me doing it. And she was pleasantly surprised that cauliflower rice has zero taste in a smoothie when you put it with banana and fruits. And there you go. They're getting some fiber in there and it fills you up way more than if you don't put that in there. So again, it's just about variety and having new ideas and, you know, maybe following people on social media that have really neat ideas with recipes or again, like we talked about Pinterest, just trying it a variety of different ways, but never giving up. Because they may not like it right now. They may not love the broccoli today, but if you try it in 3 months from now and then another 3 months from now, they might like it. You know, they might try it.
True. No, I completely agree. And actually, we make protein shakes all the time with the all-in-one protein from KidStar. And actually, so I have some zucchinis in the fridge. So maybe I will put them in the freezer tonight and we'll see what happens tomorrow with them.
Yeah.
If the kids notice that I put zucchini in their shake.
I find zucchini and cauliflower when it's frozen, it has zero taste.
Okay. That's good to know.
Especially if you put like yummy fruit like banana or like mango, something sweet or pineapple.
Mango would be yummy.
Completely masked. And yeah, my toddler, he has the same exact smoothies that I make for myself, which is always, you know, berries, cauliflower, protein powder, and spinach, and he loves it. And so, you know, on that topic, starting them from a very young age and getting their palate adjusted to different vegetables and fruits. And, you know, we lead by example as parents, right? So if we're not eating it ourselves, then how can we expect our children to if you're not preparing it yourself? So you have to be the leader of the family and, you know, eat those things yourself.
Yes,
so
you do. Yeah.
Introduce it to your children, right?
I completely agree. Yeah. Our rule in the house is, you know, we really don't restrict the kids on what they eat outside of the house, but in the house, we just only purchase the foods that we eat. So yeah, it's the same thing. You know, you eat what's in the house. So you bring the food into the home that you want the family to eat. And then the whole family eats it. And then when you're out of the house, you know, it's a different scenario. And we try not to put too much stress on the kids on that scenario. But yeah, you're right. We have to be the ones that drive the food situation.
Well, yeah, because if you're saying to your children, you know, oh, you got to eat healthy, you got to drink your water, you got to move more, but then you're sitting there not doing any of that, monkey see, monkey do. So I do believe that, you know, the habits are really well formed from a very, very young age. So they see things subconsciously even. And they absolutely copy everything. So yeah, if you want those habits, you got to start at a young age. And I was actually just reading an article, which was super interesting, that I wanted to mention here about pregnancy and how some of the foods that we eat during pregnancy can actually make a difference when your baby is born and when they become like toddlers in the way of taste.
Oh,
so they were
very cool.
About like garlic, for example. They tested women's amniotic fluid, I believe it was, after having garlic, and the amniotic fluid actually smelled like garlic. Yeah, so it's just, what it means is that the baby was being introduced to these scents and these flavors in the womb.
Yeah.
So that it made a difference as well when the baby was born and they started having solid foods. So that's very interesting. So it goes to show that, you know, even at pregnancy, what we're eating is very important as well.
Oh, yes, definitely. So many things happen even before we get pregnant that we really need to set ourselves up before we get pregnant, during pregnancy, with our newborns, throughout toddlerhood. And then, of course, our kids need different nutrients and foods and everything at every stage of life. So, you know, if they're not eating at those stages, it's the perfect time to supplement or bring things in. And of course, our teens, like you said, that's actually a huge area, especially for our girls when they hit menstruation. And we need to make sure that they're eating the right foods for their bodies at that time in life as well.
100%. I've noticed that with my daughter already, because she started now her menstrual cycle. So I've noticed even for her, sometimes she gets like little dizzy spells, and she's not fully vegetarian vegan, but she does not like to eat meats of any type, really. It depends how it's made. So she typically will lean on like tofu for protein. It is a bit challenging to get that iron in. So actually I've been giving her the KidStar iron tablets.
Awesome.
Tablets, yeah. And I told her the importance, and she's also very athletic.
Oh, so, yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
Right. So it's something I don't think many people know that when you're athletic, you actually rip through iron heavily, and especially being a woman, right? With a menstrual cycle. So it's really important to monitor those iron levels. So maybe I'll ask you a question, because I'm sure a lot of people need educating on that as well, about iron. Like, what symptoms should people look for?
Oh, yeah. So, and you know what, at every age, we have slightly different symptoms. So it can start from like a newborn can be born with low iron, but you really start seeing it closer to when the toddlers, when they start becoming more independent. And then you have kind of the behavioral issues where they have tantrums, they have horrible sleep. You know, they go from really excited and outgoing and having a great time to just melting on the floor and not being able to function. You know, the dark under eye circles. If you pull down your eyelid, the inside should be bright pink. And that's because of the blood flow. So you want the rich oxygenated blood going through, and that's why it's bright pink. When it's light pink or almost white, that's actually a sign of iron deficiency. And then when you get to the teenagers, actually anxiety and mood issues and heart palpitations and the lightheadedness that you were talking about, those are big ones. And even for adults, you know, you're at the computer, you're working away, you stand up, you get lightheaded, or you kind of feel dizzy, or your heart is pounding and you haven't done anything. Right. Those are big signs. And same with, like, for women and teenagers, your hair falling out. Right. So, you know, the iron in your hair is actually a sign. So that gets depleted first, and then you start losing your hair, and it's thin hair, and your nails start peeling. So there's like a lot of telltale signs of iron deficiency. I think that probably the biggest one for women is when you start seeing it on yourself, because we always just think, oh, we're just tired. We're parents, we're just tired. But it's not just being tired, you know. And when you finally get your iron up, and in BC, our normal now for Life Labs is a ferritin of 100. 100 is now normal. Anything under that is probable, possible, and then is iron deficient. So as you go down, you get closer to the deficiency, but you're really supposed to be above 100 for normal. And when you get above 100,
people are not.
Oh, no. When you get above 100, you're like, wow, I feel amazing. And then you just think to yourself, how long have I felt this horrible for? And all I needed to do was increase my iron.
I know all
Yeah.
about this because when I was pregnant with my last child, Romeo, my iron was at 5.
Oh,
Yeah,
Andrea.
I know. It was really bad. So, but I was so sick with him.
Mm,
So I needed an iron infusion, but I didn't go get it because I was so sick and
yeah.
I was so fearful that because I tried to take the iron supplements when I was pregnant, but I was so sick that anything I would put, it would just come right back up again.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
my
it's
doctor
hard.
wanted me to go do that, but I didn't. So after he was born, I'll never forget it because I had a C-section. He was my only C-section baby. And I'll never forget it. I looked like a ghost. I was so pale and gaunt looking and just like black circles. It was
Yep.
awful. And I was so weak. I mean, obviously I, had a baby, but I did end up having an iron infusion
Oh, good.
last summer. So I was 1 in 10 people that got a reaction to it though.
It does happen. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was
Yeah.
so sick for 3 days. I was 1 in 10 people. I'm like, of course, me. But, I'll
Yeah.
tell you that they say that after you have the iron infusion, you'll feel so much better. So initially, obviously, I didn't because I had the flu-like symptoms. I was
Yeah.
so sick in bed for 3 days. But I went back to test even this year, and finally my iron is now at like 98 or something like
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah.
So that's significant for
Yes.
my body. That's quite significant. So I
That's
was
like night and day.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
felt, and I have to say, you were talking about symptoms. As someone who's very athletic as well, I was feeling my major symptoms, like before I had the infusion, was the heart palpitation, anxiety. It was like I couldn't breathe.
Hmm.
And then also I was having leg pain, like
Oh, yes. Yep.
cramps. And it just felt like my legs were very heavy.
Yep.
So that's definitely another thing to note. So, and I
Oh,
don't think
yeah,
people
that's big.
notice, but I want to go back to you talking about the kids' sleeping habits for iron. I wasn't aware of that. So it's
Yeah,
really good to know.
it's big. So that actually is one of the reasons why we found out my daughter had iron deficiency is she had not slept through the night in probably 2 years of her first 2 years of life. And eventually, they always say, how's the sleep? And you're like, oh, it's not that bad. They're kids. They just don't sleep. And they were like, no, really. And so I explained the whole thing and they're like, oh, this is actually a big sign of iron deficiency and it's the falling asleep problem. So you're so restless. Your whole body just can't relax in bed and your mind is just you're almost overtired. And it's true because you are, because your body has lack of oxygen when you are
Right.
iron deficient. So that actually is a huge one. And then you're right with the legs. So people always think restless legs is just magnesium, but it also is iron. So you have the same issue. So your legs are going crazy, your body is just overly exhausted. You're not getting what you need. And so the falling asleep is actually a huge thing for kids. And it's a lot of the times that's what gets triggered because sleep is huge with the pediatricians where you go because you're having sleep problems. And then you find out later because when you get it's iron. So then they do the full workup and they find out how low it is. And so the one thing with supplements is they're to prevent deficiencies. They're your safety net, like you said, to not become deficient. So then when you become deficient, you're actually taking significantly more of the products from your pediatrician or your doctors actually telling you how much you need to take. So, and at that point, you're taking a lot. And that's why you had to get the iron infusion because you need so much more at that point.
Impossible.
That
It was impossible to get, and especially pregnant.
Yes.
It's impossible. Like even if I ate a steak, like all of that would probably go to the baby or what.
Right.
And what people don't understand too is how well are you actually absorbing in your body? So that's the other thing to consider. So people will say, "Oh, I take supplement," but it's like, how's your gut health doing? Are you able to actually absorb these vitamins and supplements even? But the foods that you're eating, are you actually absorbing the nutrients? So that's where supplements can be helpful. I mean, I don't like to tell people to live on supplements, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Start with nutrition first, of course. But it definitely is, if there's those 3 that we just talked about, like omega-3, a multivitamin, and in this case, iron as well, for those who would need it, are definitely key points that I find a lot of people just aren't having enough of.
Mm-hmm.
And it does make such a drastic difference. So,
Oh, it does. Well, especially because, there's the plant-based movement, which is amazing. Our vegetables should be the largest portion on our plate anyways. But with that, yeah, it's the iron from meat foods. The heme iron is just so much better for your body in absorbing the iron. So,
yeah.
If you're eating a vegan or vegetarian diet, you really need to pay attention to what else you're eating that has rich in iron and high amounts of iron.
Yeah, and also to that point, you mentioned vegan, vegetarian, which is awesome. I'd say I eat like, I don't know, maybe like 80% like vegetarian, I'd say. You have to really look for that omega-3 as well, because in a vegan, vegetarian diet, if you're not eating any fish, you're lacking that omega-3 because, for example, like chia seeds, flax seeds, they don't have the long chain fatty acids, DHA, EPA. So you would need to supplement with that as well.
You would, yeah. And we now thankfully have some, algae DHAs and omegas. They are significantly more expensive than the fish ones. Eventually, I think they'll become the same price, but it's a large investment to have algae, which is also awesome.
It is, yeah.
But
there's other minerals in that, too, which are phenomenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see that that's definitely coming forward, because omega-3 is definitely one of those nutrients that our body, it's essential, right? Our body is not created on its own, and it does so many different things, from cognitive health to eye health, and just so many different things. And I remember even being pregnant, I made sure that was one thing I always, especially in the third trimester, when the infant, like the baby's nervous system and brain development. So, any pregnant mamas out there,
it's huge. Yeah.
Your omega-3. So there's
even some, I wanted to say there's even some really amazing tests for omega-3. So when I was pregnant with my second, I think, and there's breast milk tests. You can just like put a little drop of breast milk on it, and then you send it back, and then they'll tell you your whole omega score. You can do a finger prick test. I think you may have done that at the wellness show as well.
I was just going to say, the people across from you. That's right. Yeah.
So like there's a lot of ways to find out where you're at. And so then you can supplement towards the goal that you need and where you're deficient, which is really cool.
I can usually tell like a big significant difference when I'm taking omega-3s, because my skin just glows.
Yes. I was going to say skin. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been having joint pain lately in my hands, like just a little bit. I've had some gut health issues in the past couple months. And I noticed when I take that omega, it's like night and day, like as it builds up in the body.
Yeah.
I do eat fish frequently, but I take omega on top of it because it's just not enough, especially if there's inflammation in the body. And boy, oh boy, do I notice a huge difference. So there is definitely something to be said about that.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, when you said you noticed on your skin, the backs of my arms when I had kids, they would get kind of the dry skin on the back of your arms. And that was the one thing I always noticed. I'm like, oh, I need more. And then when I would take the rich DHA omegas for pregnancy, actually it always went away. And I was like, it's like the one thing that I know when I'm slacking on the omegas, it's my skin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Somebody here has a question. What are the best omegas? So do you mean like a brand name, or like?
I would think maybe omega-3 is probably the one you're looking for. And if you're going to do fish, you do small fish. So the small sustainable fish, they have a lower heavy metal count naturally. So even though in Canada we test for heavy metals, and of course they have to be low, the smaller fish already have less heavy metals to start off with, and they're better for the environment on the fish front.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great question, because I find that, when I'm coaching clients, they typically will show me what supplements they're taking, and there's just so much out there. And it is very overwhelming for people if they don't know what they're looking for. So maybe that's a good, because you made an omega supplement there.
Yeah.
Maybe let everybody know, because that is something that I think a lot of people need to know, is what are they looking for on the label?
Right. So most doctors and pediatricians will say how much fish oil you need. So it should say on the label, it'll say 2,000 milligrams of fish oil. And then that fish oil will give you the DHA and the EPA underneath it. So it'll tell you how much of those. So for kids in pregnancy, DHA is really important. And then EPA is actually the inflammation side of it. So you're talking about joints and stuff. So you could have DHA for your brain and the kids, higher in that for kids. And then if EPA, you can have higher EPA values. And that would be for the older groups or for inflammation. So you can, and then you could have ones that have both, that equally. So, but really you're looking for the fish oil total, and then you're looking for the amount of DHA and EPA. So for us, for kids, we normally recommend around 250 milligrams of DHA every day. I think my pediatrician has my daughter taking 2,500 milligrams of fish oil. Right. So we just take more of the product to hit that amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's typically what I do with my omega. Like it'll say like a spoonful is 1,500 or 1,200. I can't remember. Yeah. I actually just do double for me because I have inflammation in my body. Yeah. But also on the label, what are people looking for? Like the little check marks that, wild caught, like what are people looking for?
So I would say that the type of fish is normally listed right underneath or on it. So we, mackerel, sardines, the smaller ones, those are big. Tuna obviously is not a sustainable fish. So, you'd want to move away from that one. And then you also want to know what else is in the product. Is there another oil that's supporting the product? Is there, like for us, we have a soft gel that's a chewable soft gel. So we have that, obviously that ingredient. And then you have your flavoring. So you want to see, well, what have they flavored this product with? Is it sugar? Is it a natural flavoring? You want to make sure there's no sugars in your products, a natural flavor if needed. And you want to make sure it has a good quality fish in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And sustainably caught as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of them are like a lot of the smaller fish are caught as a side catch, right? So as of something else, and then they've used that as well in the nutraceutical industry. And sometimes parts of the fish are all used for different parts of the nutraceutical industry. So, your collagen skins, and you got the bones used for something else, and then you have the oils used for something else. So we do use significant parts of the whole catch, which is great. Yeah.
Someone's just asking, do you have a particular recommendation, favorite brand? So do you have your omega there behind you?
Oh, I don't know if I have one over here. Hold on.
So KidStar has a omega but the amount, is it for children only specific?
No, it's for 3 to 18. Oh, that's a little higher. 3 to 18, you take 2 chewable soft gels, and then you would just take more if you were older. Yeah, they're really small. So like they're really easy to take.
Those. I get those from Romeo.
That's 2 tiny ones there. Like my kids just chew them. They're also so if your kids are learning to swallow supplements, this kind of thing would be really a good start, because if you can't swallow it, you just chew it. So that's really helpful. Our prenatal has algae DHA in it. So we do have a women's prenatal. My headset's not long enough. So we have a prenatal that also has algae DHA in it. So we've made sure that wherever we can add omegas in, we do. So that's a great thing to do too. And same with the protein, actually, we've added the algae DHA as well, because it's a vegan product. We wanted to make sure that wherever we can add that DHA in, we do. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's so excellent, because most companies don't have that option. So that's great.
Yeah. And it's a lot, we're still working on some, algae sometimes doesn't taste amazing in a liquid. Yeah. So we're working on some great tasting vegan omega products as well coming down the line. So for, something for everybody.
Be a really big one, because I've had lots of clients who are vegan and they need that omega-3, right? So there is a couple, I don't have the brand name off the top of my head right now, but there has been 1 or 2 that I've found that I felt were, I can always list it below later, but that one, that's always a question I get for vegans.
Oh, it's big,
I'm glad that they're starting to come out with that, because it's such an important nutrient to have.
It is.
The other omega-3 that I like, just because I'm answering this lady's question, is by Celicious. So Carlene.
Oh, yes, Carlene's.
Yeah, her omega-3 is one of my favorites, just because the oil as well is great. So that's another one that I would definitely recommend as well.
And a glass bottle too.
Yeah, it's in a
Yeah.
glass bottle. It's a liquid by spoon. I've actually taken the one that you just showed us as well,
Oh,
the
yeah.
little, yeah, that and Romeo really likes those ones. He likes to, because you chew them and they pop in your mouth. So
Yeah.
he always bites it and then shows me. He's so cute.
My husband takes it too. He said to me, because he has dry eyes, he's like, how many do I take for me? I'm like, oh, just take a bunch. And he's like,
Yeah,
okay,
take a
great.
whole hand. Yeah, we're
Just
good.
take it. And he loves them too. He's like, oh, they're so easy to take. I'm like, it's true. And that's the thing when you're making supplements for families and kids, you know, you really have to think about, do they like the taste? Is it fun to take? Will they take it again? And so
Yeah.
that's really the driving force behind it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I just wanted to show people your iron as well
Ooh, yeah.
behind you there. The liquid one, that's the one I
Yeah.
use.
This
Or
one's
my
great.
favorite one.
Yeah.
It tastes amazing. I have to say, and I'm not being paid by Caitlyn in any way here, but I have to say that that is my favorite iron because I have been through so many iron supplements in the past. They either constipate you, they taste like crap, or
Yeah.
they hurt your stomach. And
Yeah.
like I just told you, when I was pregnant, I had to take iron, and all of them did all of that to me, and it was awful. So that was one that I could actually stomach. It tasted amazing. It's so delicious, and I keep it in my fridge. And Michaela takes the capsule, the
The
little
little
chewable
chewable one.
ones.
This one.
Yeah, she likes that
Yeah.
one. I like the liquid. I don't know. Whenever I can take something liquid, I prefer it. I just
Yeah.
think it's quicker, simpler, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody's looking for good iron, that is the one I would recommend as well. That one's really, really delicious. And it actually doesn't constipate you.
No, it does not at all. It's amazing. And thank you so much. It is so
Yeah.
it's micronized and microencapsulated iron. So it's actually a coated iron. So it goes all the way to your small intestine to actually be absorbed. So you don't get the constipation. You don't get the stomach upset. You do not get stained teeth, which actually some iron products actually have on their label how to clean your
Oh my
stained
God.
teeth.
Yeah.
And it tastes amazing. And you're right. It's so my kids like to take, well, actually all three of them. So depending on the day, they'll just pick which one they're going to take. But you're right. Like the chewable's so easy. So I put this in like my purse. So if I'm in the car and I forgot to take it, I'll take that. And then, yeah, this one we leave in the fridge, and it actually tastes really good cold too. So it's a nice chilled
It's very
iron.
good. Sometimes I'm like, can I only really have one spoonful? Or do I have another
You
one?
can have two. You can have two.
Yeah, as long as because that's the thing. I do have a sensitive stomach, so and iron was always one that would bother my stomach.
Yeah.
That one never did. So
Yeah.
I'm like, definitely a good product for me. I like this one the best. So
Yeah. No, and it's so yummy. I
yeah.
agree with you. Okay, but I do have to ask. Okay, what is your go-to meal on a busy day?
Okay, so my favorite, I'm glad that you asked this because this is one thing I wanted to talk about for picky eaters as well. My go-to meal is always a bowl. So I like to call myself
Ooh.
a salad bowl queen on purpose because it is such an easy thing you can do. So when you're making a bowl, what I do in my home is I think of all the main macronutrients. So protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats, right? Um, and of course the veggies, which are carbs as well. But so typically like a protein, so it could be anything from, tofu, fish, chicken we kind of seldomly have in our home, but we do incorporate once in a while. And then a starch carb of some sort. So typically that will be like a rice or a quinoa, lentils, yam or a squash, something like that.
That sounds
Butternut
yummy.
squash. Yeah, so yummy. And then a healthy fat, like avocado or nuts and seeds, that type of thing. It can even be like in your dressing. And then I always have like a good base of greens of some sort. So what I do is I pull out on the island. I have, whatever we're making that night. So I'll have, all the bowls laid out. I'll put, a little bit of romaine lettuce for the kids because I know that's a green that they actually like. And then I put the rice, the quinoa, or whatever it is, and I just make a great big bowl. And I actually let them do the fillings. So
Well, that's a good idea.
yeah, because
Yeah.
that way they feel like they're making it. And I say to them, make it very colorful. So I'll chop up, red and green peppers. I'll put some corn or some black beans or whatever. And I just lay it all out. Sometimes snap peas, I chop them up.
Yep.
because they're crunchy and delicious and the kids seem to like them, or carrots chopped up, celery, whatever it is. And I tell them, make it very colorful, and I get them to just fill their bowl up, and then they have to pick their protein. So that's where I get a little bit more. I don't like making separate meals for people, but because my daughter, will not eat fish, whereas the rest of us will, I might just do like tofu for her on the side, because I do need her to eat protein.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's great because there is some iron in tofu as well. So yeah, and then we just kind of make bowls. So the go-to is always a bowl, or it'll be like some kind of pasta salad where I'll put like maybe a can of tuna and like jazz it up with feta and olives and sauteed veggies and make a great big pasta salad. It's like a complete meal all in one, and everybody loves pasta. Nobody ever complains about pasta.
No, it's very true. It's very
Right?
true.
Yeah. So you can jazz that up very simply. But those are my go-to meals. When I get stuck, I just go for that. Or a sheet pan meal is always
Yes.
easy
Yes.
peasy, right? So bunch of roasted veggies, throw on some protein, and in the oven it goes. Those are actually, tonight's a very busy evening with activities. So our dinner will most likely be something like that tonight.
Yeah.
And what's great about that for everyone listening is the bowls, the pasta, anyone that I just mentioned, make extra, because the next day you as the parent can have it for your lunch. And that makes meal prepping so much simpler for those people who say they don't have enough time to eat healthy. Well, if you make a great big batch of quinoa or a great big batch of whole grain rice, and have the veggies chopped up when you're making that meal, do extra always, and store it in containers in the fridge. You can make your kids that for lunch again tomorrow, or for yourself or your partner.
That's
And
definitely true.
it's so much. You always have to think in advance, right? When you have a family, and especially because most of us, we're all working, right? So we don't have the time to sit there and make a big fancy meal the next day. So if we have all these things ready in our fridge, to prep the school lunches, and then to make our own lunches as well, you're eating healthier, you're saving money, because you're not going to be, driving through your, wherever Tim Hortons grabbing a sandwich.
Yes, because you're right. Yeah.
And it saves you money.
Yes. I was going to say, trying to think of something to feed your child when they're hangry is like the hardest thing ever. So you have to get them before they get hungry. Otherwise, nothing's going to work, and no one's going to want to eat anything.
I tell my Mom, I'm hungry. Okay, have an apple. And if they say they don't want an apple, well, then I go, you're not that hungry.
Exactly.
So
yes.
I usually give them like apples and peanut butter. And if they say yes, I know, that's a good nutritious snack. Sometimes that'll just hold them over. Or my son Christian, he doesn't like sandwiches at lunch. He will not. I packed him one today, but he hates sandwiches.
Yeah.
And so I always have to give him some type of warm food in his lunch, which is kind of annoying. So this goes with, quick and easy. I just get, when you have that batch cooking, it makes life so much simpler. So I'll do like warm rice with peas. He likes tofu, so I'll chop up tofu in there. There's a lot of amazing, plant-based protein options, like Big Mountain Foods. They make
great stuff. Yeah.
Oh, great stuff. So I'll chop up like one of the veggie patties, and I'll put that in there. And he loves that. Put a little bit of cheese. Everything with cheese is always better.
I know, when we were talking about easy meals, and I thought anything with a wrap and anything with cheese. And then they're like, okay, you've eaten it now. We're good to go. Put that in a wrap and you're done.
A wrap is good. But see, someone like Christian, he doesn't.
That's true. Yes.
He wants something warm, so that he's my only one really like that. So that's where having those staples like the pasta, the quinoa, the rice, those are staples, and you can build on top of it, add a protein. My mom used to always say, peas are good for kids, and I'm like, what is up with the peas? Why is everything always about peas? But then when you look at peas, they actually have a lot of protein. Yeah. So sure, why not? Let's add some peas in there for a little bit.
And they're a nice color. The greener the better.
Yeah, and my kids love peas. So why not? Just go with what they like, and if someone has a child who's does not like veggies, like I said before, they just keep on trying and try making it different ways. If you have to put the butter or the cheese on it, just put the butter or the cheese on it. You know, like if they're going to eat it that way, then as long as they're eating it and getting the flavor of the veggie, then that's fine. Because sometimes people say to me, oh, well, you know, they won't eat it unless I put, you know, this sauce on it or whatever. It's like, okay, put a little bit of the sauce. If it's going to get them to eat the broccoli, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. I think as parents, we are so hard on ourselves. I actually had someone say to me, oh, your kids eat so healthy, it seems, because I, you know, what I post sometimes, I said, you know, typically, yes, they do. But, you know, on the weekends, we go for ice cream. We order pizza. We like sushi or whatever it is, right? But that's like sometimes foods. Like we're not eating that every single day, right? And I don't like depriving my children. I don't think that's right. I think that they, you know, if they're at a birthday party or grandma's house or something and they want to have treats, I just let them. I just let it go. And in my home, I try my best to do what I can. I know that they've got good staples from me, from what I've taught them. And then as they get into teenagers, they may drift. They may go into the, you know, potato chips and the pop. But I know that I've given them the core basics of nutrition and they will remember that, you know. They might
definitely
get influenced later by, you know, their friends or whatever they're doing. But they will always come back to their core, what they were taught at home. That's what I believe.
That's true. You know, and we actually cook and feed our families how we were fed. It's just what you do. It's what you know. So, you know, yeah, of course, you know, there's fun foods and there's other things to eat, but you know, we always do. We always end up making the same meals. I know my favorite meal is spinach cheese casserole. My mom made it when we were kids, and she made it this weekend for us again, and my kids love it. And I'm like, this,
good. What is that?
You know,
what in it?
You know, I'll send you the recipe, but it's basically spinach, cheese, rice, and it's all put together and lots of cheese on top, and you put it in the oven, and then, you know, there's some feta in there, some eggs. It's awesome.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So, and the kids love it.
Yeah, that's important, right? Like if you know they like something, then incorporate that in there somehow, right? Even if the rest of the family, like I always say to my kids, I'm not a chef, you know, this is not a restaurant. You cannot, I think if you lay down the law from the beginning and just say, this is how it is. This is the meals that I've made. If you don't like it, like I remember my mom used to always say to us in Italian, so it's always funnier in Italian, but she used to say, if you don't like it, it's an old saying. She used to say, go whistle, like trying to say like to hell with you kind of thing. Like, you don't like it, too bad. She used to tell us, and then we're like, okay. And then we used to just eat it because you're hungry. Of course you are. Yeah. But if you're going to give them, you know, 3 different options, first of all, you're going to drive yourself nuts. Yes. And second of all, they're going to expect that always. Yep. So laying it down and saying, okay, this is what we've got tonight, you know, make it happen. Like you got to eat it. Right.
Yeah. And it's true. Yeah. And same with us, you know, you get the plate, but someone eats more of something than something else. And, you know, someone doesn't really like it. So they had one bite. That's great. You've tried it. You've eaten dinner. We've moved on. I always say, you know, if you know, afterwards, someone's always eating a banana anyway. So, you know, you're like, go have a banana, go have an apple. We're good.
Well, my son, I always go back to Christian because he tends to be my funny eater, but he'll, if, you know, take a couple bites of his food, and he's so sweet. He'll say, you know, if somebody doesn't like something, he'll be like, you know, Mom put a lot of effort into this meal. And he'll be like, Mom, you did a good job. And I'm like, thank you. And then he'll eat like a bite and say he's full. I'm like, but you just told me I did so good on this meal. Why aren't you eating it? And
he's like, I'm done.
Yeah. And I'll say to him, well, if you finish that, you're not having anything after dinner. And then he has to really think about that because he's the one to typically go for the banana after or some cookies or something right after dinner, which I'm fine with as long as you eat
enough. Eat something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think we covered our bases here.
We definitely did. I know and now I'm thinking about like what to make for dinner tonight. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make that bowl.
Yeah, make bowls. Yeah. Bowls are my go-to just because you can literally put out any type of veggie, and I'm sure someone will put at least 1 or 2 on there, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just go with that. So
And there was a question I think I missed. The iron brand is, well, it's KidStar, but you'll notice it as BioFi Plus. I'm not sure if she's still on there, but it's BioFi or BioFi Plus, and then the KidStar. And they all kind of look the same. Some of the products don't have astronauts on them, but the look is the same. So you'll be able to find it. And I think, where can we buy your book, Andrea? On your website and...
On my website, and currently there's a couple, so they're at chapters at Metrotown right now.
Awesome.
I believe Bella and Ren may still have some copies in Langley. There's also Hampton Home Living in Port Coquitlam. I feel like I've drawn a blank. Bella Gia online sells them as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, those are the main places.
Okay,
I am going on Amazon. I am supposed to be going on Amazon. I have to go through it again one more time, but I am going on.
It's Amazon. A lot of work doing Amazon.
It is.
It's a lot.
Something keeps coming up, and like I promise I'll get.
It's almost like you have 4 kids and a job.
It is. It's a lot. So, and I want to go through the edits again and all that before I post it up there. So that takes time, and so I'm like, I promise I'll get it done.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. But and your website is andreasaliba.com.
.ca.
.ca. Okay, awesome.
.ca.
Yeah. And then KidStar is online. You can buy it from our website. And we also have a store locator on our website to find some cities near you for health food stores in your areas. And I think it's great. I think I might have to go make a meal plan now.
Yes.
You've got me inspired.
Yeah, and I'm getting hungry from this talk too, of all these bowls. I'm visualizing my bowls and going, I gotta go eat now.
It's perfect. So, well, thank you so much, Andrea. It was wonderful having the live with you, and can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, you bet. It's always nice chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me today.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye.